choir. Who will propose the toast, the Thomas Rotherham Legacy.
What a rowdy lot you are. Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Reeve, and all other honourable gentlemen, to receive such a welcome is more than gratifying. To be asked to move this particular proposal is a privilege and pleasure that I treasure beyond measure. But before I attempt to do this, I would like, I'm sure on behalf of us all, to say a word of congratulations to the President and his committees who have not merely arranged this particular function, but have been engaged during the week in the various activities. It's been a most memorable week. This brings it to something of a conclusion, though I know that there are 2 events tomorrow. But I would like to say, and I'm sure you would agree that I should say it, that we do warmly congratulate them on all they've done to make this such a wonderful day. Rotherham legacy. As all legacies, good legacies I suppose, some of which may in part at any rate come to some of us from time to time, should involve some kind of material benefit. And this one did. We think of the College of Jesus, we think of what remains of a doorway in Boston Castle Park at present. We think that there was a place, not a vast one by any means, not a great monastic foundation, but a place which housed a number of chantry priests and teachers, including, of course, that famous teacher of grammar. And it hadn't, in one sense, a long life during these 5 centuries, for with the suppression of the chantries, somewhere about 1548 or so, then it came, as it were, under the hammer. It was bought, you know, by a certain Earl of Shrewsbury, so we are told, who paid, incidentally, a matter of £8,000 for it at the time, which was, not allowing for the difference in money values, just about what Hargreaves Heath paid for that pile of buildings up in Moorgate. Oddly enough, just about £8,000. And though certain of the teachers disappeared from the College of Rotherham, the grammar school existed, we are told, in a sorry building outside the door. The main part of the building, so we are told, in the hands of the Earl of Shrewsbury, who was, I think, something of a gamester from what I can gather, he turned into a cockfighting pit, engaged with certain of the burgesses of Rotherham. I take it that it was a sort of 15th century Millmore. But it was, of course, the people who were habited in this sorry building outside the gate, who were our ancestors and who persisted in their learning. Well, after that, of course, we find even a headmaster who hadn't any pay for more than 1 year. Thank you. Can you all hear me now? And this is where, of course, the fees of the common lands of Rotherham, in addition to other people, helped him out until, with the fruition of these 500 years, we find that the local education authority came in as the benefactors, and now we have a board of governors which is representative. Well, there we are. The founder, Thomas Snell, and we do well to remember his name for bridging what otherwise might very well have been a gap. And then we take the story on, and it's a checkered tale in a sense, to the time of Charles Poole, and we can note various changes and differences taking place all the time. I remember that in one of his books, Charles Poole talks about the inevitability of change. Though he said somewhere, every man liketh his own method best, yet let no one be conceited enough to imagine that he cannot improve upon the ways by which he may perfect his scholars. And even by the time of Charles Poole, things have changed considerably, though I imagine that the classics, Latin and Greek, remain preeminently things that were to be studied by the boys. Indeed, if they'd been in the parish church this morning and had gone back again, then the Forms 1 and 2 would probably have had to write a summary of the sermon, perhaps in English. In Forms 3 and 4, they would probably have had to do it in Latin, prose, and in Forms 5 and 6, either in Latin verse or in Greek. And this would be a puzzle to any of us, I suppose, who went to church this morning. But then, of course, things went on changing. The classics gradually were eaten into by the mathematics and the sciences. And this brings us almost down to our own day. You remember, some of you may remember, that Percy Gill began teaching at Rotherham Grammar School in 1902. Long after he retired, he came back again for a kind of sabbatical term to bridge a gap at the age of 78. He taught very effectively, and you who were taught by him will remember how effective some of his methods were. I remember that when we met for coffee on that first morning of his return, I'm sure he looked upon us as a degenerate lot. He said, when we asked him how he was getting on, he said, "You know, I actually found a boy this morning in the 3rd form, and he couldn't explain Pythagoras' theorem." Well, I wonder how many of you could. Pass. Nice if you saw it. But as a matter of fact, this does give credence, I suppose, to the statement which is sometimes given that education consists of the sediment that remains when all that you've been taught has been forgotten. Well, this, I think, really is what we may call the second part of the legacy of Thomas Rotherham. Mr. Hollis last night tried to interpret something of this character, and he spoke particularly of the intellect of the man. I've sometimes looked at the portrait of Thomas Rotherham, whether it be the one in school or 2 others exist, certainly, to my knowledge, and I try to ask myself what kind of man this was. I think that there is however authentic the portraits may be, I think there is certainly an element of intellect, a certain gentleness, I think, though he must have been a shrewd character, obviously, an astute man, but I think that there is a kind of gentleness which doesn't degenerate into softness, but which is imbued with a kind of kindliness. And this, incidentally, does lend point to one of the 2 sayings attributed to Thomas Rotherham by Shakespeare in his play of Richard III, when a youngster being reprimanded by an elder gets the reproof from Rotherham, "Be not angry with the child." Well, somehow this links with the appearance of the man, I think, as given in his portraits. But I'm sure that he was responsible not merely in what he did, but because of the way in which he did it, for that kind of build-up of approach to learning, of keenness for learning, of manners, of what we sometimes call the ethos of a place, which consists of attitudes and behaviors and so on, which are so vital a part of any institution newly founded. It tries to build this up somehow or another, and we're very fortunate in that we have had 500 years of history to do this. And one of the things I'm sure that has resulted, because of the efforts of people to channel the energies and enthusiasms, enterprises, and even ideals of young people, is that there has been built up this sort of feeling which we know to be pretty precious. It's led among you and among lots of other people too to distinguished positions in manufacture, in industry, in commerce, in the arts, in the professions, in the services. And we've found that all that, both in peace and in war, have been richly demonstrated even during this last 12 months. And we like to think that it's that kind of spirit which has been built up over the years and which is the quintessence of the spirit of the Rotherham legacy. There's just one further thing I would mention, and that is that he left not merely some material benefits and what we may call the mores of the place, and if you don't know what that means, you can apply to Derek Shaw, whom we're delighted to see here, together with various other people who